something that I really been thinking about keeps popping up in my head, and I keep hearing people say this. Why can't you just do this? Why can't you just do that? I did it. You have no excuse. Right? So, here's the thing. You should never expect anybody else to be able to do what you can do. You should never do that. And you should definitely never hold it, that expectation or standard, to anybody. Why? Here's why. Every single person has their own gift. Everyone possesses a unique ability, whether they've discovered it or not. Okay? And each person possesses a different skill or gift or ability, and people are supposed to come together with their unique abilities and create something amazing. You know what I mean? Like, for example, look at an engine, right? An engine has all types of moving parts that serve different purposes. But if one of those parts is not working, potentially the rest are going to, either not be working well, or eventually, die, or not work at all. You need every moving piece that serves its own purpose. You know what I mean? In order for everything to work. So you can't, some people get mad and they're like, oh, well, just, why can't you just be a construction worker? You're just lazy and blah, blah, blah. Not everybody can do what you can do physically. That's why you have that gift. Your gift was given to you, your unique ability. Yeah, a lot of people can get fit and be physically well, but you know what? Not everybody has the same fair chance and opportunity. People have been through sicknesses, disease, trauma, abuse, all types of things that have deteriorated their health since they were 14 years old, all the way up into an adult, which escalates, and it puts them at a disadvantage than you physically, mentally, and spiritually. That was outside of their control. Therefore, you should never be holding somebody to that standard. Like, you expect them to be able to do what you can do. If I can build houses, that's a gift. I should use that gift to help other people that can't build houses. I shouldn't always expect something, or be like, do it yourself, build your own house. Lazy. Like, of course we all have the ability to learn and acquire skills and trades and stuff like that, but some of us were not meant to do that, and we all have our purpose in life, and we all come together. As you can see, cities were built not by one man, but by many that came together, and they all held and possessed different skills and assets and abilities. And one can't work without the other. They had to work together and bring all of their skills together to build a whole building. Okay? Did the construction worker expect the carpenter to be able to do his job or possess his skills? No. Because we all possess different skills and different purposes that we need to come together and use together. You know what I'm saying? Instead of be divided and separated by stigmas and, misinterpretations and judgments and stuff like that, and come against each other, because that's what the system wants. It wants to turn us against each other. You know what I mean? And divide us so we can be controlled individually to serve our purpose to the system versus ourselves and each other. Yeah. Think about that. Imagine you were born in a village and you looked around. You were the strongest kid and the oldest kid in the village, right? What would you do? You build yourself a little home, and then you got your village, your 5 or 10 friends don't know how to do it, and they're not strong enough to build their own teepee, their own hut, or their own house. What would you do? Would you be like, give me money and then I'll buy you? What money? You live in a village. We're all supposed to come together as a community and develop our community together with each other. And then, as that goes, we possess individual skills from that experience that we can now offer to somebody else, like trading. I'll do this for you if you do this for me. You build my house, I'll develop your garden and take care of it for the year. You know what I mean? But the system has forced us to not be able to serve each other, and we have to serve the system, go through their port, their employment system, and work for them and their tax dollars, instead of just, if I was like 15 years old and I could just be like, man, if I could see ahead and be like, wow, I was going to be working my ass off for very few dollars to just pay my rent and be broke after that, to get someone else richer that, got this unit and decided to sell it out to me. And I'm just getting other people rich. I'm building their empires, their dreams. I would much rather use my effort to develop my own dream, and it's a humble one. I don't need a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 house that I need to pay off for the rest of my life and work to the slave system in order to do it. And then, that's the thing. It forces you to have to do it the harder way, the longer way. You know what I would do? I would educate myself, right? Which I have. I know how to build a log cabin home. I know how to put the notch in. I know where to put the notch. You know what I mean? I know how it's supposed to be done. You know what I mean? And guess what? Guess how I learned? I watched like a million YouTube videos and literally, broke it down to myself. It's not that complicated. Of course, the labor is intense, but guess what's even more intense? Working for 40 years to not even be able to pay off of your house, when I could have worked for 2-3 years and built my own home in a more self-sufficient way, living off the land, growing my own food, and then for anything else on top of that I needed, I could go out into the town and go work for that. Whatever job that may be, whatever labor job that may be, whatever job it is, it doesn't matter. But I should be able to just look, there's a piece of land, no one's using it. Oh, the government bought all the land and forces us to buy it off of the government. What purpose does this serve? Why would you do that? Why are humans, if I was born on this earth, as long as I'm not taking from you or burdening you, what I do in my life is what I do in my life. It doesn't affect you. Why would the government buy up all the land and make it so I have to buy it off of you? For what? You already have all the land and all the money. I don't. How does that make any sense? Like, what did you do to earn that land other than say it's mine? You know what I mean? Like, and how does it affect you? If I went to a piece of land and started cutting down trees and learning how to, build a log cabin home on my own, I could build a house. Bro, there's people on YouTube. Type it in. Built my own log cabin home in 1 year. Type it in. There's a million people. There's thousands of people that built their own log cabin home by themselves with no money, with no machinery, literally chopping trees down, scraping the bark off of it, putting a notch, and knowing how to place the logs in that way on top of each other until you have a whole wall. Boom. You know what I mean? You might need a chainsaw. You know what I mean? You might need an axe. You know what I mean? We can do that. You know what I mean? It's going to take me, a couple $100, and I'm going to have that. And I could build my own home in 2 years. I could learn how to grow my own food and be self-sufficient. Why do I have to rely on your system? Why? I don't want your system. I don't want to work your jobs. I don't want to be miserable and pay your rent and make someone else rich that they're laughing, profiting and benefiting off of my blood, sweat, and tears for very little. You know what I mean? And then get myself put into debt into the schooling system, and just make myself a complete victim to this. Why would I do that to myself? There's an easier, better, more efficient, and self-sufficient way of living, and it's healthier, and it doesn't require me to have to go through your system. That's slavery. What makes you think I was born separate from the system? You have nothing to do with me. The government, taxation, all that shit has nothing to do with me. What do you guys created that? I was born on this earth. Leave me alone. I don't care about your system. Go. I'm not taking nothing. I'm not using anything from you that requires me to have to participate in your system. You know what I mean? I can exit out. You know what I mean? And I can go, again, live off the land. But then when I go to live off the land, all of a sudden they come, smash all my house down, and be like, oh, well, this isn't your land. Because the government owns it. Okay, so why does the government own land that nobody's using and they have no purpose for it in the future? Anyways, they have no plans for this piece of land? And if they do, just show me the plans that you have. I'll find another chunk 100 yards that way that is not going to be a part of whatever you have in the future design. But you can't just take all the land, buy it all up, and then not, and then, I'm sitting here having to go through homelessness. I broke my arm, I was on disability, and I can't make it in your system. Your system is not fair, and it's imbalanced, and there's holes in the system, and there's corruption, and there's extortion through taxation. Like, it's just completely unreasonable at this point, and everybody's feeling the wrath of it, and that's why they're so miserable and so angry at people that are on welfare and disability, that can't work, that are messed up completely. You know what I mean? And they're pissed off at them because they got to work so hard for so little, and then get robbed, taxed of every single transaction. You know what I mean? To the point where you don't got no money, and no wonder you're mad. But guess what? We can't get mad at the system. Why? Because it's too big, and we now rely on it to survive. So what are we gonna do? We're gonna blame it on the individual that, like, literally didn't even create the system, that is enslaving you and making you work your ass off for pennies to pay your rent, which is way overpriced, and you're just not making it. You're struggling, and you're not happy. And then you've accepted that as a way of life, and you said, this is life, suck it up. That's like one slave telling the other one that doesn't want to be a slave, just give in, submit, coward. Come on, man, come be a slave and work in our slave system. We got to do it, so you got to do it, man. I hate you because I have to do it and you don't want to do it, so I have to force you to do it. Like, it's crazy. It's psychotic. It's like, bro, you want me to live your miserable life? I bet you I could go and build my own house on a piece of land in 2 years by myself, cutting trees down, you know what I mean? And learning a trade and a skill that can now be a career for. I could go and build houses for people that actually have money, not, and then, you know what? And then make a lot of money off of that, buy some land just to get the big boys off my back, and then go and build a couple of houses there for some people and build an ecosystem for them to live off of, and teach them how to live off the land and maintain that ecosystem. There's people that are homeless that will go and live that life that aren't doing drugs. They don't do drugs. They don't rely on the pharmaceutical industry, addicted to the pharmaceutical drugs. You see this whole mess in the drug pandemic and the opioid pandemic. You know where that comes from? Your government. Those chemicals and those drugs were not created from criminals, technically. Legal criminals, government. And they said it's for our well-being. Here, you won't get addicted to this drug as long as you don't abuse it, but it's highly addictive. Oh, you're depressed? Here you go. Oh, here's some lorazepams. Here's for your anxiety. You become addicted. It leads chemically to addiction. It changes you like on a molecular level. Chemically, it changes you and you're addicted, and now you're doing something that you logically and rationally wouldn't do if you weren't addicted to a chemical. It has changed your chemistry in your brain, which can change your thoughts, feelings, and cause you to make poor decisions. Okay, so that lie that you bought into, that addiction comes from abusing the medication, wait until you break your leg and end up on pain pills for a couple of months and find yourself highly addicted, and find yourself continuing your consumption of this drug even though the pharmacy has cut you off, and now you're seeking out off the street for these same drugs that are laced with fentanyl, and you're dying. Okay, so that's really the system as a whole. So this is the real truth. All right, the idea of them buying all the land and taking all the water and all the everything, the essentials. They're gonna start charging us for air eventually, like water, okay, food and shelter are human rights and necessities. And I'm not saying it's my right to come up into somebody's house that they paid for or they built and say that it's my right to be in their housing. No, it's my right to learn how to build my own housing. If you're gonna make it so difficult for me to earn and buy and rent your housing, you cannot burden a human being's ability to live and thrive and prosper. And your system, your dollar, your working system, your taxation system that forces us into it, and we're not allowed to go anywhere else to seek refuge except through the system, is causing us to not be able to prosper. Not everybody can do what you can do. Not everybody can work the jobs that you can work. Not everybody wants to be a part of a slave system and accept that as life in reality. Okay? That's accepting defeat. You're going against your own nature of freedom. I would much rather go and learn and build, and I only need a log cabin home for a couple years until I learn how to build a better one, and then I get involved, and then I realize that, you know what, maybe I should go to school for like doing carpentry, or maybe just through experience of helping people and building these things and giving people homes to live in. Yeah, it's a lot of work, but you know what I think? If I was just dropped off in a forest and I had 3 people with me, and I'm like, okay, what do we got to do to survive? We got to build shelter, get a fire going, and then find food sources. So I would go by a lake, you know what I mean? I would go near a lake, okay, there's fish in there, whatever, you know what I mean? You know, be near a river for water, you know, running water, and a flat piece of land that I can build a shelter. And when I build that for a shelter, and it's pretty rough and rain's falling through it, and I'm like, man, this sucks. I gotta build a better shelter. You know what I mean? And then you start thinking, you start looking, you start using your, you know how capable we are? We don't need to work for 30 years to be in debt and then not even get the pension that we were supposed to get ripped off for that, and then still die before you even pay off your house, your mortgage. I'm telling you, not everybody is a doctor or a dentist or makes, you know, 80, 90 to $100,000 a year. Like, nobody does. Very few do. You know what I mean? But point blank period, if I do not want to participate, it is making it so hard for me to live. The level of rent, you know, how stigmatized the employment world is, and how unwelcoming and distorted it is. The mentality you have to put yourself in is already is taking you away from your values. You know what I mean? If you have different values, principles, and morals, and that's what you should live by, as your principles, morals, and values, and your values, morals, and principles do not align with the working industry and how the foundation of the system operates, and it goes against your values and your principles and morals, then forget about it. This is your life. You only have one life. This is not their life. This is not the government's life. This is not their land. This is not their world. It's not their city. It's not nothing, bro. We built it. We did it. We have the ability to do it as a community for each other versus a system. But if we do that, now we become criminals and targeted by the injustice system. That's what it should be called, because there is no correction in jail. I've been there. Believe me. It's taken me years to redevelop myself and get over that experience and the trauma attached to it, and the mentality it forces you to have to become, that you have to embed yourself into. You got to become a worse person to survive in jail. How is that correction? Everything is backwards. Everything is wrong with the system, and we've accepted it and then been turned against each other to hate each other because we're miserable and we're not happy where we are, because we have to work so hard for so little, because we've accepted a slave system as it is. Okay? You're not mad at me. You're not. Okay? You're mad right now, but you're not mad at me. You're mad at the wrong person. You're mad at the wrong entity. You need to know what happened. You need to know history. You need to know what systematic corruption is. You need to understand how the dollar came to be and what has happened with government. You need to be aware, but you're not. You're not educated. You're just a follower. You were born into this system. You've accepted it as it is. It seems right to you because, you know, it's that's all you know. You know, so it seems right. I didn't know there was anything other than that either. until I finally reached a certain age and a certain level of wisdom and understanding. I'm 29 years old, and I've experienced injustice in so many different ways, through homelessness, through the jail system, through the medical system, through the income assistance system, the governmental system. Like, I have just seen so much distortion, corruption, and grief caused from the system and how it's designed, that I have seen people lose their lives, kill themselves, end up doing drugs because the system just breaks you and makes it so hard for you to be a part of it. And then society looks at you and says you're a fucking outcast and spits on you and projects hate towards you, which makes you not want to be a part of society or the system even more. So it turns into isolation, which turns into homelessness, which turns into mental illness, which turns into a drug addiction, which leads to death and jail. Okay? In that order. That's how it happens. It's called oppression. Yeah. There's no debate. When I pull up and I start talking, it's because I know what I'm talking about from real life experience, and the majority of people haven't experienced what I've experienced as much as they think that they've been through it before. I would turn their world upside down and traumatize them, and their trauma would seem like a joke. And you know what? I get that that's probably, offensive, and I understand that. And I understand that your trauma to you is as great as the trauma that I have to me, regardless of the level of trauma. So something that might have happened to you is just as traumatic as something that happened to me, even though what happened to me may have been worse than what happened to you. So I get it. Pain is pain, trauma is trauma. But believe me, it can get worse, and there's levels to this. And I tell myself that too. There's worse places in the world that I could be, in third world countries, where I'm drinking out of a puddle of bacteria to survive and eating dirt. So I remind myself that I am even at an advantage, even though that I came from the poorest place in this country of Canada. I came from the most crime-rattled place in this country. And believe me, it's not British Columbia. This is the suburbs. People think, because they haven't seen it for real, that this is bad out here. It gets worse. Believe me. Surrey's not it. Vancouver isn't it. Edmonton, Toronto, Montreal, maybe even Calgary. A little bit. You know what I mean? It's got it. You know what I mean? But there's levels, like I said, and I could give you the levels because I've been to Toronto, Hamilton, Kitchener, Waterloo, London, Peterborough in Ontario. Then I came to Vancouver, to Kamloops. I know about Kelowna. I skipped that place. It's a nice city, but anyways, I'm not saying, I've made videos about this already. But I'm just saying there's levels. There's levels. And it's Toronto, Hamilton, the GTA, Scarborough, you know what I mean? These places are poverty. These are the most dangerous places that you can go in Canada. Regina is another one. Those are the native gangs out there. Like I said, it gets worse than BC. And there's levels. But anyways, I'm going off on a rant now. Apologize for that. But I'm sure you got my point in this video. Don't expect people to be able to do what you can do. There's many moving parts to a machine, to a system, and that's how things work, is because you put every single piece together. Each piece possesses a different purpose and serves a different purpose and has a different function that is unique to the other piece. And that is how you create a machine or an engine that moves a car. And you can use that in anything. A computer, a phone. You need all these parts to work together. And the other part doesn't expect the other part to do what its part does. And guess what? It all helps each other. That part helps this part, that part helps this part, and vice versa, or else nothing functions. So we are now dysfunctional as human beings. We are broken, we are distorted, and we have been misled, and we are following a system that is leading us to be turned against each other. Slavery, okay? And nothing good. We're not going in a good direction. And it's up to us to take control because we built all of this. The system may have harvested us while we did it. Maybe gave us some direction, maybe gave us some structure. You know what I mean? But it's been manipulated, and it's quite clear that most systems' foundations were built on corruption. Power corrupts. And it's true. You know what I mean? But anyways, I'm gonna end this video. Tell me what you think in the comments. Hit the like, subscribe, hit the bell, see my other videos, or hit the dislike, whatever. If you don't agree, you don't believe, tell me what you think in the comments. This is from my life experience, and I've seen something unique because I've been through a unique experience in life, and it sucks when the masses can't see what you can see, and then they look at you like you're an idiot and you're crazy because their logic is built on a foundation that is illogical. Their logic is built on a foundation of lies, distortion, manipulation to benefit certain entities. I hope you wake up, man. That's all I gotta say.